All right, welcome everyone. Today we will use this small environment to create a couple textures using camera, create the basic sunlight, and just to in overall explore a couple maps and texturing processes. All right, I will start with the camera placement. So in the perspective viewport, there's a tiny, small box, and this box actually indicates the some of a previously designed location for this scene. So F4 function D4, and I'm just zooming, just like sitting on this box. And when I'm satisfied with the view, actually the direction of the view, I will press Ctrl C. Ctrl C will create a camera. So it actually converts my perspective view into a camera view. And this was pretty satisfying and an easy way to create a camera. Of course, you can go here in the create panel, go to the cameras and create a physical camera by starting from the camera and dragging out the target at the end. Okay, but right now we have the camera. We are in the camera view, and if we press Shift F, it will indicate the save frame. So now it instantly tells us that we have a 4:3 camera aspect ratio. So if rendering is done, Shift Q is the quick render. This is what we got. This is the result that we have. Okay, later on we will switch the background and everything like that, but right now I'm just working on a setup. So when we're opening up the render setup, or F10 is also showing, and working with this one. Because of the camera recording, some of my buttons are not working, so don't be surprised. And output size custom was switched to HDTV, and we don't need that high resolution, so I will use only a half HD quick render. Okay, just checking the size if it fits the screen. Yes, it fits. All right. Maybe it's even smaller for the record. My other favorite is 800, and because we have a locked image aspect, it automatically calculates the height. So once you hit this one 900, I'm sorry, 900, enter, it automatically calculates the other value. I like to use 800 because it's pretty simple to work with. All right, now, so we have a camera. How to leave the camera? If you press P again, it will switch back to perspective. So right now we can move it away and look at it from distance. If you press C, it will switch back instantly to the camera. Now if you have multiple cameras, of course it will ask which one you want to pick. But don't forget, when you are in a camera view, you're no longer able to free move around. So when you are in camera, these controls will also update. So one of the most important controls is the dolly camera. That's actually, it acts like a zoom, but it's not zoom. Physically, you're moving closer to the object or far from that. Further from that, or another important option is the orbit camera. Orbit camera requires a good placement of the target of the camera. So in this case, as you see, here's the camera and here's the camera target. The camera target is behind the house, so it's not ideal. When we start orbiting the camera, it will be a little bit weird, but not that much. All right, now it moves in steps because I have angle snap on. So I'm pressing Ctrl Z to return back to my original, pressing A to get rid of this angle snap, and when I'm rotating it now I don't have these discrete steps, 5-degree incremental steps. Okay, so it's just a little bit easier to adjust. If you're pressing down the middle mouse button, it acts like a pan, and as you see in the full view, it updates. So when you do these operations here, it is actually about moving the camera in space. Okay, another important thing, that if you want to adjust the field of view of the camera, you can select the camera quickly and go to the modify panel. Now selection might be tricky. I've directly clicked away, so I have nothing selected. But if you have a crowded scene, sometimes it could be hard to select and pick a camera. Now here comes a simple solution to make it easier to select cameras, lights, geometry, and something else. I will show two ways. One way is to just turn off display for specific items. Now first, if you press Shift G, it will turn off the geometries. Okay, Shift G again, it will turn on. It is just display, it's not hiding, it's not anything like that. It is just turning on and off the display. So Shift G, I can select the camera, I can select the camera target and turn back on Shift G. And don't forget we have spacebar, so when you press on spacebar will lock the selection of your item. So if you want a selection that's locked and you want to move freely without any bondage, then you can do that. You can switch any views and your lock will secure your selection. So, but don't forget, you have to press on again the spacebar to release it, and now you're able to select another thing. Okay, if you have a camera selected, you can select a target from the camera or vice versa. So if you have a camera selected, right click. There is an option always to select camera target, and you can press right click above the target and say select camera from target. That's another option. Or you can come here and add the label, and the label you can press on Fizz camera, and you also have the options here like select camera or select target. Now when you're selecting the target, there's a chance that you can move around the target from the view angle. Okay, it's like pointing a flashlight to the target. And I will switch back to select camera and talking about the field of view. So once you have the camera selected, you can access to the modify points, properties, and here we have specify FOV, and I want to change the FOV. So if I want to include more in the scene, even if it's a little bit distorted, you can make it quite a wide FOV. Now be careful if you're animating a scene like this and you have a high FOV, that really feels sick when you're moving around. If you like the effect, that's okay. If it's some kind of a space fight, why not? But in some cases it is really disturbing, so be careful. If you want to increase the FOV to include more in the scene, make sure you test your things out, otherwise it is terrible when you are moving around, when you're flying through a terrain or anything like that. Okay, now once we have the camera, it's time to spend some time with the geometry and specifically the maps. So I will switch this window to perspective and maximize it, Alt W. Okay, I don't care about the at this stage I don't really care about the camera. So we have the camera here, that's fine. If I want to go back, I can press C, but go back perspective and select the item, the ground, and open up material editor and drag and drop a new material. Okay, so this is the new material. I will call it ground. Wow, nice. Okay, this is simple standard material. There's nothing special here. We will mainly work and focus on the textures. Now, at the diffuse, there's already loaded, but this one's empty, so I will just clear it up. And diffuse, that would be a bitmap. And so this bitmap might be so I will use a grass. This one is the darker one. Oh no, grass PNG. Why not? Okay, the light one. It is PNG, and yes, it is loaded here. It's not visible here. I have to turn on the visibility, show shaded material viewport, but this button always active on the level you are pressing it. So if you have multiple maps within a material, um, it can show only one map or the effect of using multiple maps at the same time. You will understand as we are moving on, but right now this is what we have to deal with. So I'm clicking on, now it's visible. What I just recognized that, okay, this map is fairly huge, so the resolution, this like actually looks like fright, or no, it's not really grass. So what we can do, we have two options. We need tiling. Now tiling option one is if you are use a tiling in the material editor. Now we can do that. uh, you just have to remember, if you are using this material in on other areas, so if you have multiple fields like this one, multiple grounds, multiple fields like this, then you have to make sure that you remember this, the tiling is adjusted or was adjusted. If you don't like to do this, if you don't want to adjust tiling here, you can create a map and adjust tiling there. So option one, adjust tiling here as 10 by 10. Now I have this kind of a resolution. It's not bad, it's pretty much promising, but I've adjusted the tiling in the material. Or I can say 1 and 1 by 1, and instead of using the tiling there, I will use a UV map. And UV map, it's a simple planar map. Projections coming from the top, because it is a simple plane, and as you see, it automatically generates this gizmo, and this gizmo suggests that this projection is coming from the top. But we don't have too many peaks, so we don't really have to worry that much about the distortion, so we can use it as it is. I don't change the size, I'm just changing the tile to 10 to 10. Okay, so tiling is there. Now the benefit of this, I have a separated UV map, and this one is kept as it is, so there's no influence if you are using it, this material on another plane, for example. Okay, now I will leave it as it is. So we have this gizmo that's pretty much fine, and there's this grass and shift Q to quickly render it out, and this is really nice. Now, how to make it more exciting? Usually if you're zooming in, it's quite okay, but if you're zooming out, that's pretty much boring stuff. So usually you want to combine 2 or 3 maps to make it a little bit more interesting, to add some random effect, or add some kind of an imperfection that gives more life to the scene. So to do that, usually it's a good option if you just load a mix. So I'm going up, go to the parent. So we are in the diffused color channel room now, and I'm pressing this go to parent, and I will leave now back at the headquarters. So this was our starting point. We have maps, we have diffuse color, and we have this grass PNG. Now what happens if I want more uh, images? Instead of using just grass 1, I want to add pebbles, for example, and I want to make a mix of grass and pebbles. Now what to do? Because we have only one diffuse color, only one channel, I have to go in just like I did before, and instead of adding one more at this level, I will change this bitmap type, and instead of keep it as a bitmap, I will change this whole container to a mix. Now where's our mix? I will double click on a mix, and it will ask, okay, I just recognized, the software says, I just recognized that you have a map. This is the grass. Do you want to keep it? Yes, I want to keep it. Okay, and this becomes white. Now the reason is pretty much straightforward. Because we have grass, and on grass level, this show shaded material viewport, it was turned on. Now it's not turned on anymore. So if we want to see it again, I have to turn it back again, right? But now at this level, we have a chance to see the mixture of the 2 maps. Now I will go into color 2, no map, going bitmap, and we are looking for pebbles. Open it up, and it's super nice. Now we have pebbles. Okay, what happened? I don't see my pebbles. Why? Because at this stage, at this level, I never pressed the show shaded material. So I'm pressing on the show shaded, and it will show just a pebble. Okay, now a good question, how to solve this problem? Um, at this stage, the easiest solution, if we adjust the tiling here in the material, and the reason is the following. If you adjust the UV map in a modifier, it will affect the grass as well. But if you want to adjust it independently from the grass, it is easier if you're just adjusting the tiling here. So I'm adjusting it to 5 and 5. Maybe it's not bad. Probably just let me check it. So okay. Oh yeah, it's not visible. So what happens? There's no mix yet. It is visible in the viewport, but it's not visible in the rendering because we don't have a mixing amount adjusted. Now take a look. Adjust it to 50. Okay. Now why we can use 50, we can use 100 because it counts percentage. So I'm using it mix amount 50, F9. Okay, it's a quite blend of the two. It's not really ideal. We are not looking for this one, but try 100. 100 will mix only. It will show only the pebbles. Okay, because 0 shows only the grass, 100 shows only the pebbles, and 50 is showing a mix of the two. Okay, now you might recognize it already that we have this no map here, and we will use a map to drive the combination, to drive the mixing up of these two materials. But before that, mix amount is set to 50, and again, just to make a practice. So I'm pressing on show shaded, and now show shaded, usually it has to, but I don't know why. Okay, so it shows some kind of a mixture of the two. It's pretty not accurate, and sometimes it needs to update, so it's not really ideal, but time to time you will try to press on it and try to get some feedback. If not, always use rendering as a quick render, because rendering shows the true tiling, the true resolution of the texture. Okay, so this is why we are not using lights at this stage, because it's much faster and easier to get feedback pressing rendering one time after another, and don't wasting too much time on calculating lights and shadows and everything like that. Okay, so I will just turn it off, and to drive the mixing I will I will use a different map, and that map, just for the demonstration at this stage, will be the checker. Okay, so double click on the checker and make it visible in the screen. The checker, the tiling here is 1, but remember the tiling here in the viewport as a UV map, it's 10. So this is why we have this quite a patchwork. And show shaded in material and viewport, leveled up, and still it's kind of crazy, but if I'm pressing F9 to quickly render, this is the result I get. Now how could it happen? So we have 3 maps. One is the grass, one is the pebbles, and we have the third map. The third map is kind of a yes or no map. Yes or no maps are always black and white or grayscale. That means we have one color that is paired with the grass, and another color is paired with the pebbles. Now which one is going with which one? So here we go. We have the black one is going with the grass is teamed, and the white one is teamed with the pebbles. So checker, I can actually swap this and create another render, and it will swap the pattern as well. Okay, now of course here's time to make a tiling. So if I want to make a stripe like this, it's absolutely possible. All right, now this is the fundamental, this is the idea of mixing two maps. You need a third map that actually generates that mixing. Now, because it's quite boring, we will use a noise map, but the noise map needs some tricks. Before we are actually jumping in, just quickly, so when you are using these kind of mix maps, some maps has to be a high contrast map. So more black, more clean whites will give you nicer and cleaner results. In this case, now you have a distinctive difference between the two materials, the two maps. So when you are using a noise instead of a checker, the result will be, I will discard old map, and now it is a subtle noise, so it's not that strong. And as you see, it's not black and white, it's kind of a mid-gray combined with a darker gray. And when I'm making the render, the outcome will be very similar to the first mixed 50% mix. Okay, because we have a low contrast map. Now, how to crank up the contrast and how to change the size. So first of all, I will switch from regular mode to turbulence mode, and it will instantly, as you see, it will instantly make it much darker. Now, another thing is I can use this cutoff. It's imagine as an amplitude, and when you're cranking up the low value, it will add more dark areas. Okay, so that's another good option. It's too much, but okay. Now we'll keep it as it is. Now the size is way too small, so it's simply you cannot see the effects. So I will just crank it up wildly. Alright, so before we are moving on, just make a test. I'm pressing F9 just to quick render, and as you see, there is some mismatch between the rendering and the scene. Scene shows quite dense patches. There's high numbers. As you see, the noise is quite dense, but here we have way more white space between these. So it is really advised to check these, because the size adjustment here is not that accurate, and visual feedback is not really matching with the size adjustment. So maybe I will crank that back down, hit render again. Okay, now I have more patches. Alright, now here comes the next question. As you see, there's only it's barely visible. It's actually just a kind of a tone change, and not really a full patch of a different map. So get rid of this. We need to crank up contrast. The problem is there is no true blacks and no true whites. Everything is kind of a blend between the two. Even if you see it as black and white, it's not really true as the renders tells us. So to solve this problem, we will use an output trick. Every map you are using, it could be a procedural, it could be any kind of a bitmap or any type of map. You have an output. An output actually is kind of a mini controller. So if you are changing, for example, the output amount from 1 to maybe 5, it will make the image stronger. Now if I'm double click on this preview and switch to drag rotate, now I can rotate. There's a nice blend here in this area, but otherwise at the center it shows something that is clear. If I change the output amounts to 1 back, as you see, the pebble area is still quite covered with the grass. So we'll switch back to 5, output amount 5, close the preview, and F9 to quickly render, and voila, here we go. It looks like quite a natural way of combination of pebbles and grass. Uh, it is not 100% perfect, of course. It is just a quick adjustment, and it's not a manually painted map. If you want the best results, you have to spend the time and accurately design your map combinations, so where you want the grass, where you want the pebbles. But this is a good and fast solution to create a mixed material. Now, if you want to add more, for example, different type of grasses, then you can make this a little bit more complicated. For example, you have pebbles layer, so instead of using just a simple grass, I will click in grass, and I want to use another mix in here. So bitmap, use another mix. I will keep old map as submap. Now I have grass original. I have a new grass that will be grass 2, and I can open it up. Just let me check grass 2. Grass 2 tiling, it needs some adjustment, so I will adjust it to 5.5. No, it's too much. Maybe 2. I'm in between 2.5, 2.5. Yeah, that's it. And of course we need a mix amount, with another way. I will use another noise. So noise will be used, and actually trick is the same, 0.4, make it visible, and turbulence, that's nice. Size, change it 6, and output. So I'm using the same output trick. It's checking by 5. Okay, now make it visible. Press render. So as you see, there is a grass area and some of the grass, and the grass is combined of two type of grass. Okay, if it's too dense, I can use the noise size adjustments to increase the volume of a patch, the size of a patch. Now I have larger patches of the other type of grass, and maybe change it to 60. F9. Okay. Oh, that's too much. So it was 40 previously. I'll switch to 30. Okay, it's not that visible. I want to show a couple patches here and there because going to perspective. Okay, so here we have a patch. The size is way too much, I guess. Okay, now we have more patches. Now it is cleaner. Okay, so it was wrong idea. 17 was absolutely fine, so I'm pressing F9 or F10 and hit enter, and now I see some patches here and there. Okay, so it's a combination of two type of grasses and pebbles. Okay, we are moving forward soon. Thank you.